Welcome, everybody. Good night. It's election night in Bethel Park, but welcome to Pittsburgh Sportsline. We have a great show here tonight with Chip Hayner and Smokin' Jim Frazier, the Scout. But we are missing Mike Migliore tonight. He's a little bit sicker than normal today, and he couldn't make it for the show. He sends his regrets, and you know how he feels about the Penguins. I think he wants to fire Baalsma and get rid of a few of the other players there, especially a couple guys like Martin and Mihalik and a couple other guys.
And Ray Shero.
Yeah, well, yeah, he went on a little rampage. So, Mike, if you're listening, get well soon, and wish you were here. Another couple things. I ran into a friend the other day, and they have this beautiful house. I don't know if Chris or Joe can pick this up. It's 636 Fort Couch Road. They had this beautiful house sold, and something happened with an ironclad deal. It fell apart. Now look at that house. It's beautiful. And not to say that a friend of mine has the Howard Hanna office in Upper St. Clair, but if you go 636 Fort Couch Road, Jim and Janet will be very happy. It's a great deal on the house. Beautiful place. Another thing, since I'm about town, I happened to be at the post office today, and the lady who was trying to sell me stamps said that she likes sports. So I said, how about watching our sports talk show? And she goes, well, I have older brothers, and I'm a sports nut myself. Her name's Patty. Well, they're a longtime friend of mine, a football player from Bethel Park here. He was a big defensive lineman, and I was just a poor little center from Keystone Oaks. This Charlie Previs weighed about 275 pounds, and I used to say I was 190 pounds then, but I think I was a little less. Well, we gave Bethel Park a tough game that senior season, and the guy named Skladany had to kick a last-second field goal to beat us by 3 points in the rain at Bethel Park. So nice seeing you, Charlie. I said I'd give you a shout-out. Thanks for watching the show. Now, let's get to what's on our mind. I usually go first. I'm going to defer to Smokin' Jim Frazier. What's on your mind?
Oh, I'll just be real quick.
No, take your time.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you know, this Thursday is the annual Pittsburgh Steelers draft. And with the Steelers, I went down to their facilities yesterday to try to kind of eye up their leaderboard, and so they didn't really have it filled out. But I was able to talk to Kevin Colbert, and me and Magic Mike Migliore, we've been pretty high on Cordy Glenn, a guy that's projected to be a right tackle in the National Football League from Georgia. He's 6'5", 345 pounds. But Kevin Colbert quickly reminded me that they are real high on a guy coming back off of injured reserve, and they have Marcus Freeman moving to left tackle. So they're kind of set at the tackle position. If they would draft Glenn, it would be at guard, and he has not been invited to come and visit the facilities. They brought about 30-some players in. He wasn't one of them. So it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers will not be getting Cordy Glenn. And it's very disappointment to Magic Mike Migliore. Maybe that's why he was too sick to show up today. So the Pittsburgh Steelers annual draft will be Thursday, so everybody tune in. We'll have about 10 new players. They got 10 players that's eligible for their draft this year. They get actually 3 draft picks in the 7th round, so it should be pretty exciting. And that's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Smokin' Jim. Chip, what's on your mind? Welcome back, and again, deepest sympathy to the loss with your brother-in-law passing away suddenly, and our deepest sympathy from all of us again. And thanks for coming to our show this week.
Thank you very much, Alan. I greatly appreciate that, and I know my family does as well. What's on my mind this week is, we got a lot of great Pittsburgh sports to talk about this week. The Penguins, the Pirates, and of course the Steelers draft. But what's on my mind this week is the trial that's going on with Major League Baseball in regards to the steroid era. And right now, Roger Clemens is being tried in federal court for lying to the Senate subcommittee on steroids. And I can't think of a bigger waste of time and a waste of taxpayers' dollars. What are they trying to prove? Okay, They're trying to prove that Roger Clemens lied to a Senate subcommittee. So they're going to basically fault him for lying to a bunch of liars. There is no point into pursuing this prosecution of Roger Clemens. They want to put the steroid era behind them, but they keep on ripping the scab off that open wound, and they need to just put it to rest. They couldn't do anything with Barry Bonds. What did they do? They found out that he lied. Okay, great. He got slapped on the wrist. What are they going to do with Roger Clemens? They're spent millions and millions of dollars, and now they're going through this prosecution, and they're going to have a case that's going to last 3 or 4 weeks, and the poor people that are stuck in the juror's box are going to be away from their families, their jobs, or whatever. And at the end of the day, they're not going to be anything more proven than what we already know, which is really not much, okay? He's going to, claim that, the person that claims that he sold him the steroids is unreliable and a liar. And I think they just need to put this to rest. You've got the thing with Ryan Braun back in the news again because they're saying that there will be no written explanation as to the judge's decision on why he chose to throw the case out against Ryan Braun, which basically means that there was a problem with the collection of the sample, not with the sample itself. So, they're not going to prove that Ryan Braun's, innocent of anything. So, I mean, they just need to put all of this to rest and let baseball get on. But, I think there's better things that could be done with the taxpayers' money than trying to, prosecute Roger Clemens. But that's what's on my mind today.
Chip, I could talk all night to you about that type of stuff. Look at Martha Stewart as an example. Insider trading for something that she didn't even get rich on. And they got her because she lied about how she got the information. So in other words, if you lie to the liars, they can put you away, like you spoke about that. And the problem is, they all look up to these athletes as role models. And we've brought up how many times on the show, I know I have, about Charles Barkley, who now lost 42 pounds on Weight Watchers. So he's not a role model, but he's trying to tell us guys we need to lose weight. So, I mean, you get all over the place with this. There is no more right and wrong in society here. It's gone. It's lost its bearings. So I agree with you on that.
Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds and those other people, they made their tens and hundreds of millions of dollars for doing what they did, okay? So they reaped the rewards. The one thing that they're never going to get is elected into the Hall of Fame. And Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds and Pete Rose and all these other athletes, so they're not going to get into the Hall of Fame. Okay, that's the price they got to pay. Now, the only one that really makes any difference to right now is Pete Rose. I think the one thing Pete Rose wants to have happen to himself is he wants to see his bust in Cooperstown before he dies. And I just don't think that that's going to happen. But
that's true. When you don't tweak the commissioner of baseball and you don't lie to him like that, you don't bet on your own team and you don't bet against your own team with bookies. Mm-hmm. Those are certain rules that you got to go by, and he broke most of those rules. Well, I guess I better get to what's on my mind. And I'm going to make it short about the Penguins. It was disappointing. I was happy that they made it there. Smoking Jim gave me a little heads up that worry about the Flyers. I guess I should have. To me, I got to blame the whole team from the top to bottom, from coaches all the way down. Obviously, they didn't learn what the Flyers did to them during the season. They did the same thing again. And to me, it was shocking that when Giroux knocked Sidney Crosby down 10 seconds into the game, nobody come after him. I mean, what happened there? If you're going to show toughness, you had 2 great games. To have a third one, you should have at least come after him. Not have a fight, but there was no hitting or anything around him. And he got the goal 32 seconds into it. Basically, that was the game. I mean, so I'm disappointed that it happened, but let's talk Buccos for a second. A.J. Burnett's on my mind. I was excited to see him pitching. Last week, I got to take back what I was saying. I thought that when he had that bad game in the minors that he shouldn't have come up right away. Maybe there's a problem. Well, here it was going to rain in Altoona, so they decided to start him. I'm figuring the SOBs, same old Buccos, we're going to play the same system. So now there's some ironies in the synchronicity of the universe. You guys can research that. I don't want to get too geekish on you, but A.J. Burnett, first at bat, he has to bunt the ball. Now, who could script it any better than that? And that's what's on my mind, folks.
Well, to speak to A.J. Burnett, and
That was my lead up for you.
oh, by the way, he only pitched a shutout in his first game back in the majors.
7 strikeouts.
You know, he pitched very, very well, and that's one thing about the Pirates right now this year. You know, we can, you know, kind of point out some positives about the Pirates instead of always dwelling on the negatives. The Pirates pitching staff is in the top 3 in the National League right now. You know, Andrew McCutchen has started off the year very well, and it seems like it's warranted the money that they paid him. You know, the one thing that that's bothering me is we've got another Paul Maholm type pitcher on our staff this year. You know, Paul Maholm last year lost, you know, what, 12 or 13 games and won 4, and he got no run support. Well, you've got Eric Bedard, who is 0-4, and in his 4 games that he's lost, the Pirates have scored 2 runs. The guy's got an ERA of 2.6. I mean, this is a phenomenal pitching job. It's being wasted because now comes the black cloud, the way the Pirates are batting.
Hey.
They are the absolute worst hitting team in the National League and have scored the fewest runs of any team in the National League. There is great room for improvement, and, you know, they're playing decent defense. You know, the pitching staff couldn't be pitching any better. They need to do something to improve the hitting. They've got all these guys that made it to the major leagues. They had to have hit somewhere along the line to be able to make it on a major league roster. And I can't understand why they can't seem to be able to put the bat on the ball with consistency and put some runs across the plate.
Should Clint Hurdle fire himself as the hitting coach for the Pirates?
Or he needs to get a new one, like we were starting to talk about last week. But there's a line called the Mendoza line.
Sure.
And it's at 200. Our average, and this isn't a negative, it's a positive. We're above the Mendoza line at 203. So, I mean, that's the batting average in the major leagues, the worst, like you were alluding to. And that's the problem. We don't have the run support. But 203 for major leaguers. I still say send Alvarez to the minor leagues. Let him play every day against pitching that he could hit.
How many hits does he have this year?
Does he have 2, maybe?
2 homers.
Yeah.
I mean, we have trouble here.
You know, I don't think Pedro Alvarez is the only problem.
No, but that's an issue that
you know,
he's making the money, and, okay, let him prove himself again. They screwed him up. I think we all agree that they caused some of his troubles, and I don't think he can hit his way back to where he was.
Well, you know, you've got a whole slew of other people that aren't producing. Casey McGee is capable of hitting, and he's not. Garrett Jones, you know, when he first came up, you know, he played half a season and hit 20 home runs, and he looked like he was going to be a 25 to 30 home run a year guy. You know, he's a big disappointment, and, you know, like our opening day roster when they put Neil Walker in as their cleanup batter, you're not going to score a lot of runs with Neil Walker as your cleanup hitter. He's not a power guy, an RBI guy. So, you know, they need to figure out what they need to do to get these guys to hit the ball. And if they need to fire the hitting coach or hire a new hitting coach or find some kind of different approach, what they're doing right now isn't working.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, and I want the Pirates to do well. What do they have to win now? 76 games, and they'll have a winning season.
Yeah.
Right now, they're on pace. I was doing some ciphering for about 65 wins.
But you know what? In the Central Division right now, they're
It's
still
weak.
They're
4.5 games up.
They could potentially, if they could, you know, get the bats warmed up, start putting some runs across the plate. They could actually have a potential to vie for the division because nobody's running away with it right now. They're not at this point completely out of it, and it's the end of April, which is something positive as well.
Right, but to use something positive in my mind, if the rest of the division is not doing well, this is when I would want to shine a little bit. I'd want a few of those hits. If we have to play small ball, bunt McCutchen, put that Haig in, who was the hitter, the hit collector. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't make fun of a guy, put him in there. And if a guy's not hitting, Garrett Jones was basically a serial minor leaguer. He had all those years, he did well in the minor leagues, then he did have one good year. Maybe he just never was a major league caliber player. I mean, he's a fast, big guy, but the home runs have left his bat.
Come on, man.
What?
Small ball. Listen, the Pirates are just not a good baseball team. You can play small ball. You can send Alvarez back down. You can do all of those things. The Pittsburgh Pirates are just not a 500 or better Major League Baseball team. They're an exciting team. I love going to see them play. I've been watching Walker play since he was in high school. Andrew McCutcheon is a great, great player. Potentially, the pitching staff is good early in the season before their arms get burnt out. But the Pittsburgh Pirates, if you look at the makeup of the team, they're just not a very good baseball team, playing small ball, big ball. Just going out to the ballpark and enjoy watching the Pirates, and hopefully they'll get to what you said, talking machine, 65 wins this year. I'm excited about that.
Oh, come on. You're hurting our man Chip here. I got to bet with them that they won't get 82. So if they can beat 72, he's going to be a happy man. Yeah. We're not busting on you here. We're just talking reality. But I got to interrupt you first. When are we going to go eat at the ballpark with Mike and all of us? What is it, $38 for all you can eat and great seats? Mm-hmm. I heard that's what you and Mike enjoy. Let's go there.
There used to be a time when that was the only thing worth going to PNC Park for was the food. But, they do put an exciting team on the field. The games that they're losing are potentially games that they could win.
Some of them.
It's a hit or two here or there that could make a difference in these games. And, they are putting an exciting product on the field, and I think they need to work much harder at their hitting. But the defense and the pitching are good enough to win in today's Major League Baseball.
Well, I wish him luck, and we're going to change the subject there because a guy texted me the other day about world peace and an elbow. So I have to talk to our resident expert on basketball, Smoking Jim Frazier, who is not an NFL scout when he talks basketball. What is your opinion of that? World peace.
I tell you what, the guy's an absolute nut. I don't know what you have to do to get thrown out of the National Basketball League. This is a guy over his career has been suspended for over 120 games. One season he was suspended for 73 games. This fool changes his name to World Peace, and he's still an absolute nut. This guy, when they won the championship, talking machine, the first thing he thanked on national TV was his psychiatrist. This guy is the one who flew over the cuckoo's nest.
I just saw that the other night.
Yeah.
Good
and
move.
I tell you what, the elbow that he hit that guy with, I tell you what, he should be thrown out of the National Basketball League forever. The guy is just mentally unstable. He's a fool, and I tell you what, he's a very strong man. He's built like a house. He's not going to be satisfied till he kills somebody. They have to throw him out of the league. Too bad, world peace. There's no world peace in L.A. ever.
Thanks.
Just go to Jim. Compton.
I got another question for you, and then we'll let Chip in on this. I'm watching something else with NBA because it piqued my interest. There's this Reggie Evans, and in the middle of the floor, somehow he flopped and got a foul right at the half-court line. Now, you got to explain some of the rules. In the NHL, which we've talked about, and we'll talk about some more, you get a penalty for flopping. Does the NBA have that rule yet? Because that was one of the most beautiful flops, and I know you had to see that one. Can you explain the technique on that?
Man, you guys don't sweat the technique, man. You guys do not watch the NBA, man, for years. Well, Mike Migliore, he watches the NBA for the white ball players for the Dallas Mavericks. But other than that, you guys got to watch. A guy that's going to the Hall of Fame right now is another Reggie. Reggie Miller used to flop. He spent his whole career flopping. The NBA is, it's very disappointing. You get superstars like Michael Jordan and Kobe. If you breathe on those guys, it's going to be a foul. In the NBA, referees rarely call fouls the last couple of minutes, and they're corrupt referees. Referees have made millions of dollars. They're going to federal prison because of all the scams that they've done in the National Basketball Association. So flopping is part of the game, and And I'm, for one, when it comes to hockey, I love the fighting, so I did enjoy the Flyers-Penguins series. That was great. I loved all the penalty minutes.
As far as professional basketball goes, okay, flopping is a part of the game as much as traveling is, because I don't think they've ever whistled that in the NBA. You watch these guys run across the floor and jump up in the air, and they're supposed to dribble at some point. But
what's the carrying the ball like
getting
this?
back to meta world peace.
What's this ball like this too? Jim, what's this? You bring the ball over like that.
Tiptoes wouldn't have liked that. He wouldn't have went for that.
He would have called. My dad would have called that foul.
Meta world peace in that elbow, He does need to be banned from the league. I mean, at one point he went into the stands after fans during a game, during that brawl in Detroit when he was with the Indiana Pacers. How much of that shenanigans are they going to put up with? And how can you ever take a league seriously that won't discipline somebody and corral in their players? Could you imagine what the NFL would do if somebody would go up into the stands and start beating up the drunk fans? But
that's why they make it hard for them to get up. They got
it's
cages over
ridiculous,
some
but
of the
that leads me to another point. I think the only way that the Lakers feel that they could derail the Oklahoma City Thunder is to knock one of their playmakers out of because this is a young player who's an exciting young playmaker, and you give him a concussion, knock him out going into the playoffs, maybe they might have a chance against him, because I think in my book, my money's on the Oklahoma City Thunder to take the NBA championship this year. I think they've got a team that's poised to do that.
He's staying the prophet. He's still staying strong with that.
Yep.
I'm going with LeBron. I think they'll do it this year. I'm sticking that way.
LeBron will fold in the finals once again.
I don't think he's going to flop this year. I think he'll do it now. He's one of the best players. It's time for him to shine now. This is his year. What do you think, Smoking Jim?
Well, I'm for one that thinks that LeBron James should have stayed with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was a big part of Cleveland. He was scoring, 30 to 35 points a game. He loved the community. I have a piece of a semi-pro basketball team here in Pittsburgh. I don't talk much about it. A lot of people are protesting our name, the Pittsburgh Bullets. And we play in the Ohio Valley Semi-Professional League. Entrance on my team.
Do you need a color announcer like myself?
Yeah, we may need that.
I'll offer my free services.
This is our first year, and you have to be not a college graduate, but you have to exhaust your college eligibility to be eligible to play for the team, because if you play, you lose your college eligibility.
So would that be an age also, like 21, 22 years old?
No, I don't have an age, but I mean, if somebody goes to a community college or junior college and they have no interest of going back to college and they can make the team, and they have a better attitude in world peace, we certainly have it, and we got a dance team, which I'm excited about. But last month we traveled to Cleveland Cavaliers game, and the ownership allowed us to play an exhibition game prior to the Cavaliers playing, which is very unusual, because when LeBron James was there, they used to sell out. So it was a lot of fun to go into a fairly empty arena for a NBA game. So hopefully we'll do it annually if we keep the team going.
And where do you play
How's your team doing?
Well, the season hasn't started yet. We're playing some exhibition games, but we feel like we're going to do good. Our best player, Marcus Robinson, has a high ankle sprain, and but Sunday we have the team playing an exhibition game in Penn Hills against a celebrity all-star team.
Tell us where we're at. We can do some promotion.
At the Penn Hills YMCA at 3 o'clock on Sunday the 29th. So
we're public access. Get it out there. And all you people watching the show in Monroeville, we just got an insight by Smoking Jim Frazier. Texted me, what day was that? Saturday or Friday or something, that he goes, I'm watching the show. I said, we're expanding all over the state.
Yeah, it was Wednesday. It was actually Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesday, the show out in Monroeville. So that's still current, that you can get to the game for seeing Smoking Jim. Right. What time, and is that game going to be then?
It'll be 3 o'clock.
Okay. So we got some public access stuff there.
So let's get back to the world of hockey because we've got a couple of exciting things going on. In the NHL playoffs, we've got 2 Game 7s coming up. The Rangers and the Ottawa Senators are playing in Game 7, and the Bruins and the Capitals will be playing in Game 7. And I think that is one of the most exciting games in professional sports, whether it's basketball or football, is Game 7 of a playoff series because they all put it out there on the line. There's no tomorrow. Somebody's going home at the end of the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing those 2 games. And to speak to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who we all picked as our favorite to win the cup. And Mike, you're going to have to forgive me for this one, but the Philadelphia Flyers are a better team than the Pittsburgh Penguins this year. They just flat out proved it in the first round series, and it hurts me to have to say that. But the facts speak for themselves. Please, Mike, forgive me. That hurt to say.
That might bring him up out of bed there. Maybe I should give him a call.
That would bring Lazarus up out.
Whoa, Lazarus will come.
Ray Shero made the comment that it's going to be a very busy summer. Well, it really does need to be because you had a team that through most of the season had one of the best penalty kill units in hockey, and what happened to them? They gave up 12 power play goals in the series against the Flyers. They didn't really play any defense at all.
Right, but their last 17 games are sort of like that. Weren't they like 8-9-1 or whatever it is with the last 19 games?
Even Friday night's game was one of the most exciting hockey games I ever watched. We beat the Flyers 3-2. But the last 10 minutes of the game were played in our half of the ice. Wow. And Fleury just absolutely stood on his head and stopped everything. He was unbelievable. And, I mentioned it several months ago, we were talking about the Penguins, and I was talking about, what was going to happen if we kept on relying on Fleury because we didn't have a very adequate backup. Brent Johnson underperformed this year. Right. And I think Marc-Andre Fleury, if you looked at the way he played against the Flyers, I think he was just spent. The defense wasn't there for him. But, he had a couple of good games. And there's a couple of games where he just completely
that last period
fell apart.
Can you imagine taking 7 shots like he did, standing on his head during a power play? Sometimes there's not more than 2 shots. So, that's an issue. He might have just played his heart out, played the best that he could. Because what did he take? 14 shots in that period? Mm-hmm. That was unreal. He was all over the place. The guys were letting people walking in. Look at Yager, the jump he had in his legs. 40 years old, our man. Shouldn't have been a captain, but he still was whipping that puck around. And look at his passes. Look at how he maintained the puck in our zone, which was fantastic for him. It was bad for us. And to me, are we going to lose a defensive coach? The coaches that coach the defense and the power play and the power kill,
Ray Shero, you look at the people that Ray Shero let leave, okay, and then the people that he's replaced them with, and, I don't think, he's done a very good job, to be quite honest with you. I think there's going to be some accountability from him, from Dan Bylsma, his staff, as well as the players on the ice. We've got the best offensive team in hockey, but, they have always said, and it doesn't necessarily just in hockey, but in most sports, defense wins championships. And, we didn't have a chance to win the championship this year because we simply didn't play defense.
But you got to admit, though, Pittsburgh Penguins were probably one of the most exciting offensive teams in NHL history during the regular season. I love the way they play. It's very exciting. And you mentioned Yager, who, in my opinion, is the greatest player I've ever seen for the Penguins, and the greatest player in hockey, period, is Wayne Gretzky. He's the reason why I started watching hockey. But do you think that it's time to maybe bring Tyrion back? Has it gotten to that point where
I think here's my theory that I just heard a stat that the Penguins, over the history of their ownership from when they come into the league, no coach has served past 4.5 years. Mm-hmm. So that's could be an issue. My theory that I was getting to is if they start out slow the first couple months, then I think there could be a problem where Bylsma could be gone.
Where's Scotty Bowman?
Well, Lemieux might still have a few comments on that. Lemieux wasn't a big fan of coaches in period. He always thought that they were just a necessary evil. I don't know what he thinks now, but it would be interesting to hear him.
And it's not just in the Penguins' history; it's just in professional hockey in general.
Yes.
And coaches usually are gone, 3-4 years, and a coach kind of wears out his welcome. I think, three exits the last 3 years, in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, this is a team, after we went in 2008, we went to the finals against the Red Wings and we lost, and then we came back the next year and won. We were looking for, hanging a lot of championship banners from the rafters of the console, and it's not happening, and the time is going to pass very quickly when we're going to have the ability to do that. And, they need to make a decision soon as to what they're going to do and how they're going to move forward.
Well, hold it. They don't have to decide on a coach. Terrian took us to the Stanley Cup, lost it, and then what happened? That's how Bosma got in the next year. When was that? February? When they brought him on board?
Well, Terrian.
So they can wait for 4 or 5 months and then make a move. So they don't have to in hockey. It's just a strange sport. Now in college football, they change coaches even before they start the season. So, I mean, it's just unreal with the coaching.
Well, not to change gears, because we've been bouncing back and forth, but in my opening, I apologize. The right tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, starting right tackle, according to Kevin Colbert, will be Willie Colon. And forgive me for forgetting Willie, who missed the last 2 seasons on injured reserve. Next year, he may go for Aaron Smith's record, 3 straight years on injured reserve.
With pay.
With pay. But who do you guys... in my opinion, like I've been saying last year, I said the Pittsburgh Steelers would go 12-4. They're going 12-4 this year. I'm saying they'd be lucky to go 8-8, maybe 9-7 this year. So I'm putting that out there even before I've seen the schedule. What do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers need in this draft? I think it's a very critical draft for them this year. I always felt that when Bill Cowher players began to retire, and they didn't necessarily retire, but they were shown the door, that the Pittsburgh Steelers would be battling the Pirates and Pitt for 500. What do you guys think they need?
It's obvious they need help on the offensive line, and they should draft high and go for the offensive line. But they also need a solid nose tackle, and I don't know if they have that on the roster right now. Nose tackle may be something that you can get in the later rounds in the draft, because from what I understand, and I'm not really up to date on all the information for this year's draft, but there's no real eye-opener at nose tackle, and you might find somebody later on in the draft. I still think that they've got holes in their quarterbacking. They've got Ben, who gets hit quite a bit, okay, and and they re-signed Charlie Batch, and I love Charlie Batch, and he's a Pittsburgh native, and he does a lot for the community and everything like that. But I don't know how much you can rely on him to be a backup. They're going to need a younger quarterback. I'm fairly certain that Dennis Dixon won't be back. And even at the running back position, they've got some young guys in there, and Mendenhall's hurt, and we'll see how he comes back. But, there's a lot of places that they need help right now. It'll be interesting to see how they, pan out. I'll wait to see, Friday or Saturday to see how the draft panned out for them.
What about Thursday night? We'll have to catch Smoking Jim on TV. Will you be on TV with these draft picks? What's the story there?
Well, I'm not sure. The last time I was on TV during the draft was when Myron Cope was still there. Myron Cope I used to be able to get Myron Cope to pull me to the side, because they're a little afraid of what I might say down in the Stiller facility, so they kind of steer the media away from me, and I'm usually not very, very happy with the way the drafts has gone. I've evaluated their draft the last 4 years and gave them a D grade, and it's starting to show right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers probably, if they're lucky, will get an inside linebacker from Alabama named Hightower, and he's an outstanding guy, 260 pounds, can probably step right in for Farrier. But the problem is, if you look at the last 4 drafts, they've been drafting very, very heavy at the linebacker position, and most of those guys aren't NFL quality. So other than offensive line, the Steelers really been swinging and missing at linebacker, and if they take Hightower this year, I think they'll be telling the world that they missed the boat on at linebacker position.
Well,
Does it surprise you that nobody made an offer to Mike Wallace? You know, that he hasn't signed his tender yet, and he's got until the 15th of June to do that. You know, the Steelers say they want to have him around long term, but you know he got no other offers. You know, from any of the other teams. You know, what does that say about Mike Wallace?
Well, I think it more. You know, I said it on this show and several other shows, and nobody will believe me, but I'll continue to say it, and I'll probably put it in my column. I'm in the newspaper that I really believe that the Rooneys, who hold a lot of weight, you got to understand that the National Football League has several owners' meetings, which I'm not invited to because there's not a black owner in the National Football League. So those closed-door meetings, I really believe that Art Rooney Jr., who's sort of ruining the football team, which I predicted he would do. This is a guy who was a attorney for 20 years and found out he was closer to Eddie Payton than Perry Mason. So he's doing a horrible job. But I really believe they went in the owners' meeting and they said that for all the other teams, and I predicted this when they tendered him and didn't franchise him. If they'd have franchised Wallace like they did Woodley last year, Wallace would have made $9 million a year. When they tendered 2.7, that says Rooney went into the meetings and told everybody that Wallace was hands off. How does the Rams give Garcon, a guy who was injured all of last year, played at a Division III school in Mount Union, $60 million, but nobody wants to even sniff Mike Wallace, and they would only have to pay him $2.7 million and give up a first-round draft choice? There's no receiver in this particular draft that can touch Mike Wallace. So he'll play for the Pittsburgh Steelers next year for $2.7. He'll go to the Pro Bowl again, and we'll see what happens after that.
Do you think they'll sign him to a long-term contract before the season comes, or do you think he's going to be a disgruntled wide receiver, play for his $2.7 million, and walk at the end of the year?
Well, he was disgruntled last year, quiet as kept. They kind of kept it hush-hush, but Mike Wallace was not happy with two things: the double teams that he was unable to beat.
And short arms.
And,
in the playoffs.
He's not a playoff guy. I compared him to Elvin Harper, who was a great regular season wide receiver, but didn't do anything in the playoffs. That's when guys like Mike Irving stepped up. But Wallace was really upset because Ben's go-to guy started to be Brown. Antonio Brown's an exceptional worker, exceptional wide receiver that works and get open, and he wasn't seeing the double teams that Mike Wallace was seeing. So Mike was a little disgruntled last year. But I think when you go through Hurricane Katrina, which me and Mike Wallace talks about often, he had a full scholarship to Oregon State that he accepted coming out of high school. Then he's from Louisiana. Hurricane Katrina hit his family real hard, so he stayed close to home down in Mississippi, and was in the background of the movie Blindside, because one of his best friend is the guy that played that they made the movie about Blindside. They played 4 years together at Mississippi. And but I think that Mike Wallace will play hard. He has to if he wants to get that big contract. And when you run a 4.2 40, whether you're double teamed or not, you can take the top end off the coverage, and everything else underneath opens up. So I think that Miller and Brown will have big years, and we can just keep sending Mike Wallace deep, whether we throw him the ball or not.
Well, that's good. Do you think, I'm a conspiracy guy, so I agree with you on a lot of the things that happen behind closed doors. But one of the things that bothers me is I think if they didn't talk to everybody, who wants to get in a battle with the Steelers that they can match whatever offer you put on the table, right? Because that 2.7, somebody could offer to more, but the Steelers have the first right to match that. So if they get in a battle with them, don't you think, since this is a good old boys network, that they're going to say, yeah, if you go $5 million on that guy, what do you think's going to happen? We're going to overbid on another guy or two for you. that you'll
But
have.
this ain't Gettysburg. It ain't going to be much of a battle. If I offer Mike Wallace a contract, the Steelers have 1 week to match it,
Right.
and it's a done deal. We're not going to go battling
No,
back
but I
and
mean,
forth.
no, but my thing is, if they could match it, say it's $4 million, they do it, and they go, "Hey, you screwed me on that because I overpaid for Mike Wallace this year. Now we'll get you next year on somebody else that's on the fringe." And you know how there's certain players, they don't try to sneak them in, but they want to get them at the best price. And it's just business, Emperor. You understand the Emperor business here, but that's how they work it.
Well, the Steelers will never get into that game because what if the team don't match, and the Steelers are stuck with paying somebody $19 or $20 million, which seems to go against everything they really believe in, even as far as paying for a stadium. The good
Hey,
citizens.
one point
did
to
that for
interrupt
them.
you here, buddy. I heard you on Steel City Sports World. How can the Steelers even offer you a job to scout for them after I've heard some of these comments? Do they even know that you say this stuff? Because I
Yeah.
know it's heard all through the city.
Yeah, they
What do they
watch
say
our
to
show.
you when they come up to you?
Well,
Art Rooney II, I'd like to get a scout insight from the scout here. What does he say? "Hey, Smoking Jim, how you doing today?"
Well, used to be when the draft was on Sunday. The draft used to be
Right.
Saturday and Sunday. On Sunday, I used to have brunch with Art Rooney Jr. and his priest.
His uncle?
Yeah, his priest. Yeah, his real priest. So he's a real gentleman. But they let you know that they watch the show.
Okay.
Because they'll say little things like Dan Rooney one time came up to me and says, "Hey," because we were calling the top local basketball high school players of all time. He says, "Hey, I was watching your show and you didn't mention Robinson that used to play for Allegheny High School." And so they'll let you know. And
They may not talk about what you talk about them.
they'll let you know that we seen the show and we weren't real pleased with some of the things that you said, but they know I'm somewhat of a loose cannon.
Well, obviously they have some respect for your judge of talent. Maybe not what you say about them. So that's a good thing.
And right now, like I said, me and Kevin Colbert kind of went round and round because even though they didn't have their big board set, a guy that they're high on is an offensive lineman from Ohio State named Mike Adams. He's 6'7", 330 pounds, and Kevin Colbert is really high on him. So is most of the scouts, and I said he's softer than the ice cream cone from the Dairy Queen. So they
Wow.
weren't real happy with that.
Wow. Well, I heard today Colbert said they may be looking for a quarterback, too, in the draft in the later rounds with all those extra picks that they have. So is that's going to happen, too, that they may get a younger quarterback?
Well,
Who would they look at then?
I believe he'll be a black quarterback because the Pittsburgh Steelers got more black quarterbacks on their bench than Grambling University. So I wouldn't doubt it. They got some bums from, like Chip said, Dixon. Always said that Dixon was a great baseball player at Oregon. Always said only time he'll see the field in black and gold is be with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Byron Leftwich, when he was at Marshall, they used to have to carry him from huddle to huddle because he was always hurt. It's no problem why he's still hurt. And Charlie Batch is about 40 years old, and they keep signing him as a backup quarterback. And then you got the owner that says Big Ben needs to tweak his game. This is a guy who's he's the smartest Super Bowl winning quarterback the Pittsburgh Steelers ever had. Terry Bradshaw couldn't spell cat if you spotted him a C and a A.
I love Hollywood Henderson.
You sound like a Dallas Cowboy on that one. That's an oldie but goodie.
But the Chief never criticized him publicly. That's the difference between a great owner like the Chief.
Good point.
criticized him publicly, but the Pittsburgh fans and the
Yeah,
sports writers
yeah.
lambasted him in the 70s.
They sure did.
Terry Bradshaw was abused. And when he left Pittsburgh at the end of his career, he left with a pretty bitter taste in his mouth. So, we'll see. But the Steelers have a lot of unanswered questions that, we need to see something in this draft here, and they could go any one of a number of different ways, and they're playing their cards real close to their vest.
Well, I think they're going to go back to Chuck Knowles era and get the best possible athlete out there.
I was going to say,
And it's going to be a wide receiver. Because they need wide receivers.
Well, that didn't work for
Okay,
Matt Miller.
I think I was drinking Steeler Kool-Aid.
That didn't work
They
for
need
Matt
wide
Miller.
receivers.
That didn't
Okay,
work for Matt Miller. Every year for the Detroit Lions, he took a wide receiver.
And don't forget who was Matt Millen's sidekick, Kevin Colbert. They used to do that together over there in Detroit.
To go off on a different spin on the NFL, some interesting news has come out this week, and once again about the New Orleans Saints. And the general manager was eavesdropping on opposing coaches. He had their transmissions monitored, or this is alleged, and you just wonder, man, what is it going to take to get somebody fired completely from the New Orleans Saints? All these things with Sean Payton, Greg Williams, now the general manager, and they're embarrassing the league. And then I read today about how Roger Goodell said that the punishments for the players will be handed down very soon. And he let it be known that he didn't confer with the players' union about, punishing the players, but just to let them know that punishments were coming, because what he stated today was that the players were enthusiastic about the bounty program and really kind of like aggressively pursued it. So they're due to be punished, and I want to see how this kind of all plays out. What are your thoughts about
I'll give
this?
you a couple insights. I've been a strong union guy over the years, a union rep, steward, negotiator, etc. But when the inmates are running the asylum, you're going to have nothing but trouble. And here's what happens. Everybody knows that something was going on, and these players are going to get in trouble. Goodell's saying, can we work something out with you guys? And the players' union saying, no, we can't work it out. These guys are innocent little babies. They didn't know what was going on, so here's what's going to happen. Goodell's going to come down. He's going to pick the biggest guys that kept throwing their money in there to support the other guys. He'll play the emperor, and he's going to put a few guys out of the game for a year maybe. If you did it to the coaches and all the other guys, and look at Witt as the coach, the interim coach, who's going to be suspended also. He's trying to defend Loomis for something he probably didn't do. What he should have done is not even answer any questions on it and say it's an ongoing investigation that may have no truth at all behind it, because they were even saying this is like Star Wars and other secret agent stuff.
Well,
it may have never happened.
This just goes to show you how much of a joke Roger Goodell really is as a commissioner of football. You got the Bill Belichick thing. Okay, here a guy blatantly cheated, got caught cheating, and he destroys the evidence.
Wow. And
what's he do? He fines him $500,000, and he takes a first-round draft pick away from him in a year where they had 2 first-round draft picks. Okay. So basically the Patriots cheated and were blatant about it, and nothing happened to them. So now, we've got this thing with the Saints, and really, okay, so you hand down some suspensions, but the way he doles out punishments, I mean, look what he did with the Steelers and James Harrison and his hits. Why was his hits, $75,000? Why did he get fined $120,000, $130,000, $140,000, and nobody else has gotten anywhere close to that?
Because he kept doing it.
But there are some more flagrant violations of the rules that I have seen that have not been punished. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no equality in the way that he's doling out punishments. He's just, okay, I'm going to make an example of the Steelers because they're a highly visible team. They're Super Bowl champions, okay? They're one of the most popular teams in professional sports. So I'm going to make, so now, the way he runs the NFL, I think he's just making a mockery of the whole league. And then he claims, well, I'm trying to make it a safer league for the players. Well, it rings
There's
hollow.
more lawsuits than ever now.
It rings hollow to me.
I don't want to see nothing in New Orleans except for girls and beads. I mean, I'll tell you what, the whole place is a joke. You got the owner for the New Orleans Saints in the midst of all this, and number one, he's not paying Drew Brees, who I think he benefited from the bounty system, but the owner goes out and buys an NBA team. I'm like, don't you have enough problems? Why don't you just, on your NBA team, why don't you just trade for world peace?
Are you giving him some basketball advice?
And I tell you what, like Chip said, the commissioner's a joke because, Peyton wanted to appeal the process and you appeal to the commissioner.
Wait, after you admitted you were guilty, okay? You wanted to appeal it after you said, yeah, I did it, and I knew what was going on, and it was my fault.
And you're a union man. How do you appeal to the same guy that dished out the punishment?
You should not make an agreement. Like these guys say how strong the unions are. Look at it. If the guy who's the judge and jury is the guy you have to appear before, what's your odds? Think about it. Common sense. So in other words, this is just to keep people in line. The biggest players get all the money. The other guys get the scraps. Emperor, come on. That's what goes on.
And I know something about equality. That don't sound like equality to me.
It isn't. You're right on the money. Where do we go from here now?
Where do we go from here?
We've covered just about everything here. What else is on your mind? Anything else, guys?
Well, one quick shout out. I know at some point the Pittsburgh Steelers will take 2 wide receivers in this draft.
Oh, I thought one.
I mean, they get 10 picks, so you know they got to take 2 wide receivers. But if I was picking, number one, I like a big wide receiver for 2 reasons. One, the quarterback wants a big wide receiver, and they seem to stay away from that. But if you're going in that direction in the 4th or 5th round, a guy would consider, since you're taking a receiver anyway, it's one of the best high school football players I've ever seen. He's 6'5", 200 pounds. He runs a 4.3 40. He was 2-time state champion. He was captain of the worst Penn State program of all time last year, poor thing. He's probably sliding down the draft board because, like Chip said, Penn State had no quarterback last year, but Derek Moy, the Rochester great, will be available probably in the 4th or 5th round. He can jump out of the gym. He's 6'5", hard-working guy. Has his degree in 3.5 years from Penn State. He'll have his master's degree this spring if he didn't drop out of school. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers ought to get him. He's a smart kid. Local kid. And
are you giving us a hint of what's on your board?
Yeah, if you're going to take a wide receiver in the mid rounds, I think you can't go wrong with the guys that's big, fast. He was
4.3. Did you say?
He runs a 4.3. Was 2-time state sprint champion in high school, and he's a great character guy, and so you won't be seeing him driving around town smoking a blunt in his SUV.
How does that happen?
With no plates on his car. That's why they pulled him over back to
Is that why?
Oh, sorry, Santonio Holmes.
Well, he's not here anymore. Statute of limitations ran out.
Tinted windows, no plates on your car.
In the Hill District.
In the Hill District, and you wonder why you got pulled over.
Well, Santonio's trying to make some inroads to mending the fences between he and Mark Sanchez. I understand They were in Florida together, practicing for the season. We'll see what kind of benefits the Jets get out of that.
Oh, since we're on Jet Talk, great way to lead up to me. I just saw before I come in that they're going to have Tim Tebow on the punt team. Did you hear that one?
No.
And I couldn't believe it. They're going to put him on the punt team. And they said, well, he's a great athlete. He can at least block. And then the other announcer goes, well, maybe he could even do a run once in a while. So, I mean, can you imagine Tim Tebow on the punt team? So, that'll block. But, I mean, New York is just too wild there. And Ryan just wanted him, so he didn't play against them. That's my theory on that.
No, my theory on that is that they needed to get some positive press against the Jets because, they're competing against the Giants, and the Giants are the big boys in New York, and they always will be. The Jets are like, the redheaded stepchild of New York, and they're trying to get themselves noted. They got their loudmouth coach flaps his gums, and that's the only press that they've been getting. So, they have to do something to try to get a positive
on a point.
Spin on
how long can Ryan stay as a coach if he doesn't get that Super Bowl this year coming up?
Well, I always thought that they grabbed Tebow because they haven't had a sellout crowd since Billy Graham stepped away. But I tell you what.
What position did he play? Was that Ken Graham?
He filled up the arenas everywhere he went, man.
But he's a man of faith, like Tebow.
But, you guys, there's been 2 coaches in the history Well, 3 if you count Jerry Glanville, who was a nut. But I think there was 3 coaches who were very excellent coaches that got fired because they couldn't win a big one, and it was a shame. Bum Phillips couldn't beat the great Super Bowl Steelers. Houston Oilers won the same after they fired him. Buddy Ryan, who's the father of Rex Ryan, was fired from Philadelphia, turned their program around, but because he couldn't beat the some of the great San Francisco 49er teams or the Green Bay teams in the playoffs, they got rid of him, and Philadelphia went down. I think Rex Ryan, in my opinion, is the best young coach in the National Football League. I would love to play for somebody like that believes in his team. You know, what can you do? This is the National Football League with elite talent, and he doesn't have an elite quarterback. The National Football Leagues are reaching for these quarterbacks, and, you know, the kid that they have at quarterback only started a year and a half in college, and he's very inexperienced, and I think he lacks a little bit of heart. I think his slips shows sometimes during the game, and I think he would play a lot better if, like Jack Lambert said, put dresses on some of these quarterbacks.
You know, Pete Carroll, who was his head coach at USC, even advised him against going into the NFL.
That's true. That is true.
And he said that he didn't feel that he was ready to go to the pros. He went anyhow, and
That's a good point.
you know, and he went on to a very well coached, very disciplined defensive team, where, you know, your quarterback really didn't have to win a lot of games for you, but at some point your quarterback does. And, you know, I mean, you can only, you know, like Trent Dilfer was just a journeyman quarterback, but he got on to the 2000 Baltimore Ravens.
Good point.
And for a year he guided the ship, and the Ravens defense won a Super Bowl for him.
Well, look at Neil O'Donnell. If he doesn't throw to Larry
Brown,
2 passes.
Jerry Jones paid him.
I think it goes to the New Jersey boys there.
Yeah, that's where he's from. They threatened his family.
That's what I think happened.
And you know, now you watch the tapes of that. If he didn't throw those balls right to those guys, he had a little envelope.
Say Larry Brown was covering grass. It wasn't even a receiver over here, man.
Right, he couldn't help it. Hey, it's been a great show, guys. We miss Mike, and I wanted to wind this down a little. We all do some community service, and I wanted to tell you guys about a free event that's being held tomorrow at the Comfort Inn on Banksville Road. And I don't know if they can pull this up. It's Pittsburgh Positive Live. This Joanne Quinn Smith. She started these businesses 5 years ago, and she helps promote positive Pittsburgh just events and everything else. Well, she come up with this Hugathon Pittsburgh, and Al Levine, the talking machine, is the Community Relations and Development Director of Hugathon Pittsburgh. So if you want to meet me, come down to the Comfort Inn, 6 o'clock to 8:30 tomorrow night. You're all welcome. The staff and crew here, you're all welcome. Joe, Chris, Devin, Aaron, Dave Cable, come on out. Chip's invited, but he has prior commitments. You may get to hear Smoking Jim and some of his insights. Mike's going to come out of his deathbed and told me he would be there. All I have to do is call him. So come on out there, guys. We hope to see you, and there's a lot of things that will be happening. This will be September 6th this year. And by chance, it's my good friend Chip's birthday that day.
Oh, happy birthday, Chip.
We could celebrate his birthday. He can be the best birthday hugger. And we're going to have an event coming up. Stephanie, sorry about that. You get to be there. You can be the hugger there. But that's some of what I wanted to bring up here. And it's going to be a good time by all. There'll be free food and appetizers and a lot of good positive things about Pittsburgh. And we're about ready to wrap the show up now. And I'd like to thank you. Again, check us out, Pittsburgh Sportsline on YouTube. And you can give us a call anytime, 412-831-3304. Again, this is Chip, the Prophet Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier, the Scout, and Al Levine, the Talking Machine. We'll see you next week, and I hope to see you all tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.